I'm Dan Kubisky with the Society of Professional Journalists International Community. The Mexican government moved against the new generation cartel and violence erupted around the country. We know about what happened because of the bravery of Mexican journalists. And of course, we were concerned about the safety of those journalists. So when we want to know what's going on in Mexico, we check in with Vicente Calderón. Vicente is the founder and editor of the Tijuana Press and a good friend of the SPJ. Vicente, thank you very much for being here. And how are you holding up?
Hi, Dan. Very happy to be here with SPJ, and we are doing fine right now. These events that unfolded on during last Sunday didn't affect us as much as in any other of the cities where this group have a stronger presence. I'm not saying that it doesn't do here, because we do know that the Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación is one of the three major drug cartels that operates or have a criminal activity here in Baja California. But I have to commend my fellow reporters from communities from Guadalajara, from Michoacan, that are the ones that are facing the blunt of this difficult situation since the last Sunday.
I was just going to ask how, uh, when these cartels go to war within each other and with each other, unfortunately, it's the average Mexican that gets hurt. And it's up to reporters, very brave reporters, to bring those stories. Uh, have you heard of any episodes where journalists have either been threatened by the cartels or by government officials complaining about the coverage?
Well, unfortunately, that is like a common occurrence. Due to the last incidents, for example, we have to recognize that a crew from the TV Azteca television network, I think it was in Guadalajara, was shot at. We don't know if it was a bullet that just ricocheted somewhere or was directed to them, but the windshield, the one of the windows of the car was smashed, and when they were covering these incidents, we don't know a lot of the precise details on this operation and the aftermath, because the Mexican authorities haven't been very transparent. They are giving us a lot of mm, information that is not complete. But thanks to the work of my fellow reporters, we are seeing a lot more of what happened really during that day and previously. One case that we are very concerned lately is that one uh, former candidate just threatened one of the anchormen from the group Latinos, because he was exposing him when he was trying to convince one one group of singers to 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 sing a song that was praising El Mencho, the leader of the Cartel Jalisco New Generation. It was a private event, but of course, social media put out the demands of this gentleman that was the organizer and the sponsor of this gathering in a private venue. But still, these guys, the name of the group is something of El Barranco, who was already sanctioned by the U.S. authorities because they were singing songs praising El Mencho. So the thing is that we know that that when he published that story, the next day he threatened the main anchorman. So this is a very difficult situation. We don't know how it is going to know. We haven't seen a condemnation from their fellow party members of these
Mhm.
actions, but this is the type of situation that we have to be working around.
So
So I mean, there's some cases.
this was a member of the of the government, a parliamentarian, or was this a party official that was complaining?
I think it's a former candidate from the leftist Partido del Trabajo,
Okay.
Workers' Party. So, and he says that he has a lot of friends that are in higher places, what he was saying. So, after the initial video that he posted threatening the reporter, now there's a new one saying that he did not threaten, but we haven't seen the condemnation of their party members or other parties complain about this type of behavior.
Okay. So I'm sure many of your colleagues, as violence started, as some of the uprising started among the cartels, they didn't stay at home. They rushed out to get the story because that's just who they are. Is it normal that Mexican journalists might get a little more training on what to watch out for when they go into these kind of situations? Or does training come by doing it each time?
Well, I know that there's some deep efforts in that sense. We have seen the increase in number of workshop or training sessions online or in person to these situations. But I mean, reality is like when you are under this stress on one of those situations, we don't know how effective those things are. And also the conditions are very different here in Mexico because, I mean, let's say that in the US, you will be more or less reliable on the authorities. And in this case, who are you going to call in as an emergency situation like that? The cops, if the concern is that in many cases, they are connected to the drug traffickers or with the criminals. I do always remember that there's great cops and there's honest cops and even public officials, but but you have to be working really in depth to realize who is really doing their work and who is having dangerous relationships.
Well, that becomes part of the issue we always hear about Mexico is you're never quite sure where the attack could come from. Could it come from the police line or could it come from the cartel line? I have to tell you that we're so proud of the work that the journalists in Mexico are doing, and wish we in the U.S. could do more to support them. How are things now? Are things calming down a little bit, or
depending where, depending which location we are talking about? Sinaloa, for example, has more than 1 year of basically a civil war within the Sinaloa cartel, is very difficult. I commend my fellow reporters from Sinaloa, from Culiacan, and from many of the municipalities around it because they are the ones who have been suffering the most. And I have to admit that without them, we will not be knowing the whole story. That's the reality because, again, the authorities, due to the political climate that we are in Mexico, are always considering not just the reality and the police work, but also the political implications in a very polarized society that we are seeing. No, and again, this is not an electoral year, but this is the time when internally the party. This is like the season of the primary, so to speak, to compare it to the Mexico. So elections will be next year, but right now there's a lot of fighting within the political parties because people is trying to decide. This year will be when they will decide who will be candidate next time. So in this scenario, when the drug organizations and organized crime organizations have been increasing their infiltration of political positions or public officials in the government, different levels of the government, is more complicated. Also, even covering politics in Mexico. It's not that you have to. It's not that the danger is only on police and the police bit. Also, if you are covering politics, local politics can become dangerous in the current situation.
And just to be clear, when you talk about fighting within the political parties, you're talking about political fighting. We're not talking about actual violence.
I'm talking in general about political fights, but not violent. But in some cases, this can really become tricky and dangerous because, again, due to the association of some people, like the gentleman we were talking about the video, he has been previously linked or accused without being proven that he has been guilty. But in the past, the authorities have accused him or linked him to organized crime. And he was a candidate. That is why something like this kind of threats cannot be taken lightly. And this is the scenario we're dealing. Not all the candidates are corrupted, or not all candidates are linked to organized crime, but we have seen more. That's a real.
Hey, I lost your picture. Looks like
You
I
freeze
lost you.
here, Joe.
Here we are. Here we go. You caught the last part there. Anyway, Vicente, I know you've got a very, very busy schedule today. Is there any last things you'd like to say?
Well, I think what you mentioned before, the solidarity from your side of the border, it's still very necessary. I mean, this is a joint problem. It begins or goes through Mexico, but the end, it's in the U.S. The largest market of consumers is there. The money that fuels all these criminal organizations is in the U.S. The guns that are used by these criminal organizations to terrorize the society, like in the aftermath of the operation to capture and who ended up being killing the Mencho. They're using that to terrorize the community in general. So we need to work together in this sense. Sometimes I'm surprised then that I see more coverage of the drug trade, of the mafia operations, or the gang members on the Mexican side of the border than in the U.S. side of the border. Many of the reporters are covering Tijuana from the San Diego freeway. We have talked about this. I understand there's a lot of elements involved, but we need to have more solidarity. We need to help. We can use all the help possible to put pressure on the authorities and to convince them that we need to see political will in the government to go after the criminals. I know it's not an easy task, but it's doable. We have seen that in Tijuana, in Ciudad Juarez, when they were able to bring the level of violence associated with organized crime down, even with the drug trafficking was still a big problem.
Just to completely agree with your assessment there, but I would just add one extra thing in terms of solidarity, that more American journalists need to understand the dangers and the passion that Mexican journalists have, and we're very much hope that there's more programs we can do to help Mexican journalists do their job.
I'm always very conscious about the fact that we are not risking our lives every day, but there's condition and beats and stories that become dangerous. That happened to you guys also over there, but it's more common to face those situations here due to the conditions. So yes, we need to be working more closely to provide that and other types of help.
Thank you very much. Like I said, I know you've got a very, very busy schedule today. I thank you for taking time out to talk with us. Vicente Calderón, founder and editor of Tijuana Press. Thank you.
Thank you. It's always happy to talk to you, Dan.